everyone. I'm here to talk about alternative futures of our existing cities. Mr. Kant spoke very well about what the force of the nation should be, looking at great cities, and India should be looking up to them. This is another alternative angle to that. We can all ask, who really defines the future of the cities? Is it us architects, or urban designers, or planners? Really, is it the government officials who define the future of the cities? I must question that. I think cities have been a collective act of human endeavor throughout history. We've looked up at cities built ages ago, and they've been formal models of newer cities to come up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we all have a role to play. Let's look at this empty bottle. We are in the middle of a post-consumption crisis. Good old days, we had glass bottles which would have a drink and send it off for recycling. And you know, the systems were in place to look at market system and send it off for recycling. Today, it doesn't make sense. There's no economy to support this kind of thinking. And this is where we come in, about rethinking about cities. What's changed now, the new paradigm is crush after use. We all have bottled water. I mean, I just had one, and I was feeling bad to really take it. But it defines the attitude which we live in cities today. Use it and forget about it. I mean, this is a post-consumption crisis we should question and rethink where we stand in our cities with that attitude. Fortunately, our cities are not built on that premise. They don't come with instructions of use, misuse, or disuse. Our cities are born out of human endeavor, which has been drawn from the ages. And currently, I don't have to talk much, you can see the images. They're bustling with activity. India has very high density areas compared to anywhere in the world. And our slums are overflowing with people and energy and the commerce areas, the markets. You just have to go there on Durga Puja day and see what it looks like. It's amazing. But we are not alone. Cities have a great network of smaller cities which are interdependent on the supply chains around there, and they have a huge ecological impact, a term which we now refer to as ecological footprint. It's almost the footprint of the city which on the areas around. And that is a concept we should now start looking at. How much do our cities consume? How much do our cities sustainable? And how we can make them reduce that, and how we, all of the people living in the city and the rural areas, have a key role to play. Delhi is a mega region. It's 25 million people, and really I moved here 20 years ago, and 50% of the population in Delhi is less than 30 years in Delhi. And we're struggling with understanding what this Delhi is. We don't have any experience about managing 25 million people, no municipal structure to even engage into what the city is, let alone imagining it. We're struggling with managing it. Traffic everybody talks about traffic. And yesterday we were just talking, if there's an initiative to stagger work hours where we all travel back and forth, we could reduce a lot of traffic. And it's just rethinking how we are behaving in the city. Again, housing pressures are everywhere. People line up like iPhones being sold if there's a new housing project. And as we look outside the fringe, the border of this Delhi map, which is this black entity, and we look at greener pastures outside for bigger development and free land and greener pastures, our work literally looks inside the city of Delhi. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about unused land. We're looking about lands opening up with changes in use, primarily industrial use, which are now moving around. Delhi is also endowed with very beautiful nature, but it's all sort of locked in various places. And we're looking at that. That is a key area where we want to look at ecology in cities. And certainly, a lot of these ideas come from the people who are living there. You engage the people in the areas and see what they have to say about the city. And we all have to make a platform where to where we can engage the people. One of my first learnings come from this rural-urban cross-section in India. I was born in Patna, stayed there for about 15 years, and then have changed 9 schools for education and work, all the way from Darjeeling to Ahmedabad. I used to love the train rides which would go from one end to the other city and literally cutting a cross-section of India. And this area of North India is very dense. It's as dense as the United States. UP, Bihar, and West Bengal have same population as the US. And that is a critical aspect we have to always gauge. And it's not really Delhi alone, and then Lucknow, and then it's literally Delhi and small cities, and it's a network of these interdependent towns, which are really the key. So ideas of urban, I love this slide. It's just out of Patna. When you drive out to taking the same bridge, which carries around 40 million of people to North Bihar, this is what you see. The ideas of urban are being reinterpreted everywhere. And the villages, they seem isolated, but frankly, they have one of the largest connection to areas around. The cell phone penetration and how they do the work in the villages it's totally amazing. Moving on, I went for graduate school in Los Angeles, and there we encountered a lovely book. And I must tell you this book, the Red Book, which is called Understanding USA, is one of the first attempts to really look at USA as an entity. I mean, it's a mysterious element, richest nation. This book is written by Richard Saul Verman, who is the founder of TED. And when we were given this book as students and partly professionals to look at it, we were asked to can we look at Los Angeles in that same manner? To demystify Los Angeles to normal people, really. And really, the idea was to even open this book in a school classroom, and people should understand it. So it was the whole idea that cities are not complex entities, but they are really simple to understand. And if the school kids understand that, it'll be very simple to make the changes which we are talking about. So we looked at, our goal was to look at unused land in various areas, and we localized into this red metro line system, if you see here. And the idea was, can we use the metro to connect to underutilized resources, and all the school children could be using these metros and use the resources around it. Currently, all the school children were busing out of their areas and studying in containers. I mean, literally, what kind of civic identity does that happen when a kid learns through that environment? So our idea was learn in the city of learning. When I moved to Boston, where my wife was, I started working on a project where you see that big highway which cuts into the city. It's called the Mass Pike. You can be in New York to Boston in 3 hours. And literally what this project started was, okay, we have that, but let's look at it again. It actually cuts the city into 2 parts. So the idea was, can we look at it again? So rethinking how to connect the city back together, make it walkable, make it friendly, and really what the city is all about. Again, another project close to MIT where we looked at the rail yards being not used and connected to housing areas. Another project which is abandoned rail yards. Rail yards have a constant theme because now, as you've seen earlier too, the supply and chain of market and products is changing. So there's a lot of rail yard land available, even in America. So we're changing into parks, useful spaces, buildings, cultural use. And all that while, when I was there for 8 years, I'm not sure if you've heard of this project called the Big Dig Project. It's the biggest public architecture project in the US. And it was a big highway which was chosen to be brought down, put underground, and put parks on top of it. And I used to work in an office building right in front of this, and I could hear this creaking, cranking, and braking all the day. And the sheer urban transformation which we saw in the 6 years here, it just had a profound effect on me. And the idea for urban change, it begins really with something wider, and a vision to change, which happens over 15 years, and again gets relooked by new people, and again takes over another 30 years. It's an idea of a change. Again, one of the key things which I personally like is rediscover your city in various aspects. You walk around, and these are pictures of industrial buildings which are transformed by graffiti artists. And that's a very beautiful way to just use it. You use the city as a canvas. This is unused lot which was used as a sculpture area, temporary. And again, city has this great sort of power to literally rediscover areas. And in Delhi, we are all sort of set on driving our cars, our destination, AC on. We sort of lose our ideas of what Delhi is. And if at all, Delhi can provide that idea of rediscovery, of play, of going to a markets and having fun about the energy around the city of Delhi. The first project which I show you is a proposal for Patna. Patna is a very tight urban city. It has only one public space, which is called the Gandhi Maidan. And the river is very well used for religious purposes, but otherwise it has no access to it. It's got small alleys, literally maybe half of them are just going forward with cars and all. You can't really drive there. And our idea was to look at these 27 ghats and how they sort of connect better to the city. This is the image of the ghats. You can see how eroded the environmental condition is. And the access is really poor. So the idea was to provide the people a new identity for the city. We're providing these updated ghats with landscape, with a lot of facilities, and connect them with the promenade. Literally a 6-kilometer stretch which is going to have a new promenade. This project is funded by the World Bank and now being reviewed by the National Mission on the Ganga. The idea was also to integrate a lot of art, we proposed 2 sculpture parks with a lot of eco centers and art terraces in there. There's a dolphin center which comes in there. The whole idea again to get children to come out and learn. Nobody really goes to the river and nobody knows the river. So our idea was to get them out there. Again, closer here in Delhi, this is the Yamuna, which we always talk in terms of water quality. But it always has a very nice urban and natural edge. It's green, and the new master plan calls for it a natural corridor. And the project is we're working with Delhi Development Authority and its agency UTTIPEC, where we look at ideas of transforming this space as a pure work-dominated area. And you can see Connaught Place at the back. This image on the top has the headquarters of World Health Organization next to a slum. And this is this disparity we are looking at. There are government offices which are in sheds. And our idea was to transform this area into making it more transit-oriented, more friendly. And the key 2 portions on the either side of the site is 2 unused power plants. One is being shut down already, the other in the process of doing that. And how these can engage the city in a more proactive way and not really as places we don't even know about. Nobody even knows that there are power plants on the edge of the river. And there's a rail yard which connects there. And our idea is to take this whole edge, which is almost a 15 to half an hour walk, and make it really the natural edge for the city of Delhi. These are images which have proposed that the power plant be converted into a public area on the bottom, and the image on the top is where possibly, it's just an idea that Delhi could have this edge to the river. And again, we found areas to re-densify a lot of these. Another form of rethinking which we practice is literally, it's called urban acupuncture. It's been done very well in South American countries. Literally small areas which are changed, and they act as catalysts for further change. It's not a big master plan which comes in, hey, everything clear out, and this is what's going to be, but really ideas of change from the grassroots. And it starts from the idea of streets. Streets have a very important public space. They've been, over history, they've been very important protest spaces. Kids play in it when the cars are away. And our project, the few snippets which I'm going to show you, will take the idea of streets further into what public space could be in Delhi. This is a proposal we did for Ministry of Finance in Lutyens, Delhi. And the idea was to connect the street. You drive around there on Sunday and all the streets are empty. You almost get lost because you're not directed. And the idea was that we should use the street as an active street fair or Sunday event and have a great sculpture garden inside, which anybody could use. So the ground floor is all public. This is Karol Bagh. It's a bustling market in the north of Delhi and partly in the old area. And you can see this kind of activity. And what we went around was actually seeking spaces of pause and where where people can actually have a different experience rather than just jostling around in the market space. So the idea was to maybe have a dedicated corridor for rickshaws and walkable pedestrian pathways and places of shade, and also places where you could put objects of art. And this, we're really interested in this intersection of art and public life. And there are sort of 10 parks in there, which in one of the public meetings, a person walks up to me and says, hey, you can use these parks for parking. Just use it for parking. It's the best use. But unfortunately, that's not the way we can always go ahead. Our idea was to use these parks as local level anchors. There were lots of kids. They didn't have places to play. And we said you could lower down the boundary walls, take out the wires and all, and actually use it as local anchors, local level anchors. This is a metro stop, which is another anchor on the street. Again, another place is Paharganj, which everybody knows is the area in front of the railway station. If you walk there, it's walking in like Little Tokyo. There's so many neon signs. It's almost like the neon corridor. And you look at these, again, trying to create spaces for pause in front of the railway station. It's all about how Delhi embraces people coming in also from the station. And the street itself is revisioned as to be a pedestrian-oriented street. Unused chowks are being used for reusing to places for Mehendi, which is already happening there. And again, an unused park can be an installation area. And again, these are ideas which we throw out with the municipal agencies and people who are working with the city. And again, it's a recurrent idea of hardware and software. We certainly need the highways, we certainly need our high-rises, but we really need cities for people. It's the idea that cities are for people, they have been built for people, and we shouldn't forget that. More so in the current era, we should embrace this idea of urban ecology and how nature is very important. And falling back again to this idea of post-consumption crisis, is there a possibility we can rethink our attitude towards the city? And we can all form a collective to do this for us. Thanks a lot.